introduce you to words, and when they introduce you to words, they build off of those words. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a section, and I'm going to stop periodically and talk about certain words in the chapter, and then I'm going to have you do that after it. So I'm going to model for you first, and then have you take off from there. So page 28, basic procedures, a study of the effects of the moon. An area of interest that has been around since ancient times involves the belief that the moon influences our behavior. In fact, the word lunacy, which also means insanity, comes from the word lunar, which means of the moon. One study compared the mental hospital admissions with the phases of the moon to see if there might be some relationship between a full moon and the abnormal behavior. Researchers compared mental hospital admission rates for the days during the full moon phase with the rates for 10 days before and 10 days after the full moon. They did find what seemed to be a relationship between the full moon and lunatic behavior. So, reminds me of some of our teammates on our team. The hypothesis. We'll use this study to help you become familiar with the terminology used in experimentation. The research started with a hypothesis. This is one of the major words in the chapter, Shannon, and what I want you to do as you're reading is write down the word hypothesis, and also after we go over the terminology, whichever way you can relate it to remembering it might be in terms of hypothesis. They're telling us that which is the statement results they expect to get. So we're going to be setting goals and for track and field, and it's kind of like our hypothesis. We know an end time that we want to hit. So the hypothesis in the study is what they think will happen. So we have a training plan, and in this they have a hypothesis. This is what they thought was going to happen, and then they concluded their studies, or they gathered data. So I'm going to write hypothesis. I'm going to stick it in the page so we can go back to it. Also, I'm sorry, let me back up. Which is a statement that often results that they're expected to get. So for me, I jot down results that are expected.
Hint track.
And for us, when we set our overall end of the season goal, that is our hypothesis.
You gotta write that on the sticky note.
Track, PR, end of season. Alright. Which is the same of the results that expected to get. In this case, the hypothesis was there would be a relationship between the occurrence of the full moon and the increase in mental hospital admissions. In our case in track, it was we set goals, we set a training plan, end result, state finals. Choosing subjects. Subjects are people or animals whom research is conducted. Again, a bolded word, another major word of the chapter that's going to be built upon. For subjects, it's people or animals. For me, when I think of people or animals, and in terms of track, I think of mid-distance and distance athletes. They're our subject. They're the ones that are going to run, do the workouts, and they're the ones that are going to see the results. In this study, the subjects were people being admitted to a mental hospital. Variables.
Hey, that's her.
I'm going to have you take over at this point in time and throw the sticky note there. For variables, please read.
Do I have to read out loud?
No.
No, you can read it to yourself. But like I said, every time you see a word that you think is important part of the chapter, before you get overwhelmed, write it down. Remember, we're stopping, noticing, and thinking, and then related to a real life situation. So. Can I see what you're doing? Go ahead and keep reading the section. Variables can change. Related that to mileage, plan, running over break. Good. Remember, if you get to a part, keep reading to finish the section. When you get to a part and you feel like your mind's overloaded, jot down another sticky note. Because what we're gonna do is,
Doing these two.
yep, we're gonna read until we're not gonna read
Okay.
those two. We're gonna get to variables independent. So, just complete this page, and then we're gonna flip to there. Okay. Go ahead and read. Like I said, make a couple sticky notes whenever your mind feels overwhelmed, and then we're going to take these sticky notes and we're going to put them on the T-chart. And we're going to record our analogies. If you get stuck or there's a section you don't understand, please ask.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Read through to variable, independent variables. So read the next two.
Just those, just that.
It's just these ones.
Oh. Is that for independent or is that for both?
That's for the first one.
Okay. Excellent. Now let's flip back to the beginning. And we talked earlier about the T-chart. I want you to use the T-chart. In the first column is your section. So whatever section it's coming from, write down the section. Then I'm gonna have you record the sticky notes, which the first part of what you wrote, and then the analogy.
Just take the sticky note, put it on.
I'll transfer the sticky note right on over. So that when you're
Less work.
there, you go.
You did this one.
I did. So for me,
That's all you.
like I talked about, the first one's hypothesis, and it says this makes me think, and when I think of the hypothesis, I think of with your training for track, this is what's going to happen. So I think that we're coming off an injury, but if we have no more setbacks and we're able to train the rest of the season, I believe that will allow you to reach your goal, which is 11:30
30.
in the 2 months.
Pretty sure that's what I put down on the sheet.
Okay, so that's what I took off from the hypothesis. Results that were expected, the result I expect you to do, or they will hit, will be your goal of 11:30. Next one, subjects. And
It's
same
the same
same section, comes from basic procedures.
You didn't have to write it down.
That's alright. That's where you know exactly when you're going back to study, you know exactly where it's coming from. I wouldn't want you to have to do too much work.
Well, you could just leave it blank, because then you're gonna know it has to do the same thing. And when
True.
you start a new section, you write it down, so you know, oh.
Alright, this one's subject, people and animals. Like I told you, I connected that to our distance and mid-distance teammates. And I believe you took over from there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, fill that in. So what did you write on that one?
It said that you can change, and it has to do with the plan.
Okay.
That started it, and then running over breaks and running when you're supposed to.
Okay. What was the next one?
Study of stereotypes.
Excellent, new section. Wrote it in.
And then this was just like the general beliefs. Because the example I used was that old people are generally cranky, which you are at times.
Can be, yes. And what was your analogy? What'd you relate it to?
That a lot of people just believe that girls are automatically slower than guys are.
Okay. Do you also think that there's an analogy out there that they think because as girls get older, generally what happens?
They don't run anymore. They just don't do much.
Well, your body changes, right?
Yeah.
A high school freshman to a high school senior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that